Thank you, Geerts, for very, very kind words and kind introduction. Good day to everybody, to Rail Baltica family and Rail Baltica friends. It is kind of struggle to put, for health and safety professional, to put something about health and safety in 15 minutes. It's not easy, but I'm going to do my best that I can. In order to get the message across for health and safety in relation to Rail Baltica. And so let's look at a little bit of a bigger picture. So end goal of the project is having high-speed railway rushing through the Baltics, right? And what defines high-speed railway? The first thing, it's fast, and the second, it's safe. For me, if I need to prioritize those two things, safe comes first, and only afterwards comes fast, right? So now we have the time to go to this railway. Now, what in between of now and then, when we have this fast and safe train rushing through the Baltics? So we have design phase and we have construction phase. And we need to make sure that the construction phase and design phase also, both of them, are safe. So now, as we talking about Baltics, let's have a look at the construction business safety in Baltics now. Now, looking at the statistics, and we can have some figures from 2019 and 2020, and all across the Baltics in lethal accidents, 37 people have been killed. And by saying killed, I say deliberately, because somebody didn't do his duty. Whether that was state, or that was employer, or that was supervisor on the field, or at the end of the day, that was employee himself, but still the end goal is the same. 37 people were killed over those 2 years. Now, if we look at the monetary kind of perspective, that over those 2 years, 31.5 billion euros were spent or turned over for construction. And then just, I don't like to put it in mathematical kind of way, but for each 950 million euros spent, there is one people killed, one construction worker killed in a field. This is not acceptable. That is clearly not acceptable. And if we do like a projection to our project, this is completely outrageous, right? We can't definitely do that. And by saying that, we need to think about the facts. Why is that? And being into construction business for a considerable period of time, I can say that in average, construction companies here in Baltics, what they do is they comply merely with legislation. And that's it. Compliance with legislation, and we're good. So, going forward, I already mentioned that we're not going to accept that, and we need to do something better. So what do we do better? And we looking forward for some evolution of health and safety management in a project. And we understand that there is a huge impact of the project on a local economy, on a local health and safety as well, so that we can have this pioneer kind of advancement in our field. Now, a little bit narrow down the story on Rail Baltica, and we see that our values and the things that we deliver are people, nation, linking people, nations and places. And I really, really emphasize the fact that the railway is built for people, but that's done by people. Okay? Now, resources currently are invested quite a lot and significantly in design of the project, and in the future we're gonna accelerate also the construction as well. But at the same time, we need to invest in people. And in people in this point in time, in those people who are actually taking part in developing the project. So, yeah, we invest resources in people. It's not something probably that we do very much now, but going forward, we have significant plans to do that and make sure that safety is really becoming the top priority. And it's not just for our project, but in construction business in a region as such. So somebody would ask, all right, we have good intentions, what are our goals for health and safety? And that's non-disputable. It's 0 accidents. So that we saw in a couple of slides behind that the 0 accident, even if companies have it, it's not something that the local businesses can deliver. And to be honest with you, even without the large-scale construction in place currently, we have already had some accidents. But there is one trait that is common for all the accidents, at least for those that I have been participating in the investigations, and it stands for the fact that each accident, before it happens, it can be preventable. So basically, when an accident happens, we do the accident investigation, we dig down to the root cause, we look at the subsequent causes or intermediate causes, and we see that by just removing or managing that one single underlying cause, we would actually eliminate the accident at the end of the day. So with the full confidence, we can say that each accident is avoidable before it happens, and this is what we need to deliver. We need to work before accident. And if we can imagine the train, that we run ahead of a train, right? And we chase accident running in ahead of it. So what's next? What do we do? So now we have clearly understanding about local situation, about the local mindset of health and safety, and we have our goal of 0 accident, which is fairly ambitious, right? And I already mentioned that we have had some accidents on the way, but at the same time, we have our vision, and we start with delivering kind of standard for health and safety. The legislation is still in place, and the legislation is a strong foundation that we build our health and safety management system on, but we go on top of the legislation. And on top of the legislation, we collect the best practice from Europe, best practice from the similar kind of projects, and we put together good practice, and we put it in a standard of the health and safety. The standard that we have put together is a framework. It initially has built for tackling the issues on the construction sites, but we can also apply the standard by modifying it to DDD contracts, to material procurements and deliveries, and as Andrei already mentioned, that we have some other programs like anti-corruption and environmental, so that they work all across the project once we have framework in place. So now about the content on very brief manner. So the health and safety standard itself implies roles and responsibilities. And we work together as a team, even though when we look at the structure of the project, it's fairly complex. We have, as a standardization body or unified kind of guideline body, we have Rail, and then we have national implementing bodies as well, and those are all allocated some responsibilities, and then we go down to construction companies, to supervisory bodies like FIDIC engineers and subcontractors as well. So everybody has been located their own responsibilities and deliverables. So contractors are expected to raise hand whenever there is any concerns in regards to health and safety, and hopefully that's going to be taken over in other functions as well. But this is what we see currently, what needs to be done, so that we kind of build that very open environment that everybody is free and everyone is free to raise a hand and say, hey, listen, we have a problem here. How can we fix it? Do we need some resources to put in? Or we just come together, do a brainstorming a little bit, and we come to conclusion and we fix it, right? So emphasis on a teamwork. So now about short term, what are we going to do and what's on a plate, so to say? We have standardized like framework for risk assessment and management of the risk. Then we have for next year or two, and I would say in the Baltics, and having all the experience of implementing the similar programs in the past, so we have to implement near miss and safety concern reporting program, all through the starting with Rail, going further to local implementing bodies and also construction companies. And beyond that, if we can imagine that everybody who passes by the construction site, being that the general public or tourists, they see, okay, that's probably not very safe what those guys do down there on a field. So they take a picture, they send it into to our platform, and we have full knowledge of what is going on. Through that, we foster the society also to play their role in making sure that this railway is built in a safe manner. The big one is operational leaders have their own dedicated health and safety responsibilities. Setting the KPIs starting from RB Rail Management Board and with local implementing bodies as well, so that leaders really run the course. They show the example, time to time, they show up on a field and they do their due diligence. So everything starts with the leadership, and especially in health and safety, whilst that's very, very much top-down activity. So, and health and safety culture as a strength as a result. So now, for a bit of a summary, really here, Rail Baltica Global Project main goal in a health and safety is zero accidents. So all the upcoming standards and upcoming procurements and upcoming contracts will be guided by health and safety standard and focus on a teamwork and leading by example. And by leading by example, I mean senior people, whether that's RB Rail, that's local implementing bodies, or being that construction companies or subcontractors, their leadership is out in the field time to time, being their very busy people, but still time to time spending their time on a field and showing example and leading health and safety. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Atis, for your presentation. But of course, taking into account the scale of the project, that we will also touch both in the following presentations, but also in the post-break presentation from Marc-Philippe Elbeze. It is clearly, and put together with the statistics, the unfortunate statistics, it's quite an crash test, I would say, that we have to go through. And you mentioned also that this is an area where also Rail Baltica looks beyond the legislation, pushes the border, aims to establish new best practice that actually can be learned from also internationally. But for the Baltics, are there any specific recommendations, or how would you see that also strengthening the national legislations?
Okay, how much time do we have now?
3 minutes.
Okay,
Max.
so short version, and a short version is in a way so that we need to look at the best practices in the world. And now, and you asked the question about the legislation. So we have very, very prescriptive legislation. And the best examples in the world is goal-setting legislation. And what that means in actual fact is, so if you look at the Baltics here, once you get risk assessments done, instructions done, everybody trained, you collect your signature, you're good. And I'm looking from employer's perspective. So the employer, like, if we can embody somehow health and safety, he takes this ball of health and safety and hands over to employee, right? So employee now keeps this whole responsibility because employer has done his own due diligence. He has handed the ball over, and he's good. Now, whilst in a good practice, in a good environment, so ecosystems of health and safety, that's goal-setting legislation. So basically, you do whatever you do. You don't have so prescriptive legislation, but at the same time, the goal is one: make sure that people don't suffer, that they stay alive and they're happy and well-being is good, and you go further on. So basically, if you have accident in an environment where there's prescriptive legislation, you are brought to the court of law, and employer has done everything that he's supposed to be done, and then court of law will say, okay, good, the employee who suffered, he's the one in charge about that. But now in goal-setting legislation environments, whenever something happens, then in a large part, employer will be in charge. So that means that employer actually takes real care about his employees. I'm not sure I was very explicit, but that's the real problem if you look from a high level.
Good. Thank you very much, Atis.
Thank you.
Good luck, I would say.
Thank you.
Full support.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.